I changed the lock because the kid's noise is annoying. You can sleep in the garden with the baby. Coming back from a checkup with Rosetta, I called out to Kyle and was met with those unbelievable words. Come on, Kyle. Stop joking and unlock the door now. Even with an appointment, enduring the long wait at the doctor's office since morning with my 3-month-old daughter, Rosetta, was tiring. Just as I thought we were finally home, I realized the key wouldn't fit. That was his response when I asked him about it. I'm not joking. If you heard me, do as I said. Kyle retorted defensively. Rosetta is only a 3-month-old baby. How can you say such cruel things? You think I'm the cruel one? That's my line. I come home exhausted from work, and all I hear is her constant crying. If she keeps crying even when I'm sleeping, it must be your fault. The yelling escalated. No matter how hard I tried to block it out, his hurtful words kept reaching my ears. Even though Rosetta is our child. I felt tears welling up. Just as I was about to speak up, someone tapped my shoulder. I turned around, and standing there was. Then, a savior appeared for us. My name is Hannah O'Donnell. 24 years old. I gave birth to our beloved daughter, Rosetta, 3 months ago, with my husband, Kyle, 28. I met Kyle at a mixer I was somewhat reluctantly invited to by a friend. After his relentless pursuit, we started dating and eventually got married. In our 2nd year of marriage, I became pregnant with our long-awaited child, Rosetta. Our first date was near a rosary, which was beautiful every year. That spot became our regular meeting point. Therefore, we named our daughter Rosetta. When I announced my pregnancy, Kyle cried tears of joy. I was filled with hope and anticipation for a bright future with him. Those were the days. Even during times of morning sickness and poor health, he would care for me without sleeping. However, as I entered my stable pregnancy period, Kyle's behavior began to change. I'm naturally petite and slender. The baby in my belly felt heavier than I anticipated, and even slight movements drained my energy. I wasn't exactly sighing, but I'd occasionally let out a small sigh after certain tasks. Seriously? Another sigh? Do you regret having our baby? No, Kyle. It's not a sigh, it's just, the baby's heavy. Kyle mistakenly thought my slight exhales were sighs of regret, and no matter how many times I tried to explain, he wouldn't understand. From there, things became strained. He would come home late, not telling me where he was, and I spent anxious nights, especially as the due date approached. I see. I think Kyle's jealous of the baby, and that's why he's upset. Do you think so? He was head over heels for you, Hannah. Maybe he feels neglected. I'm sure he'll come around once the baby's born. Is that so? The one laughing and listening to my story is my sister, Rose. She's the one I rely on the most, and she's always been my greatest ally. Rose has a husband named Luke who is 3 years older than her. Our family owns a traditional bakery in Nebraska. Luke, who fell in love with our bakery's pastries, insisted on apprenticing under our father, taking over after our mother passed away. Luke also fell for Rose and married her. He became a part of our family. Apparently, Luke's father is a CEO of a major company, but Luke had no intentions of taking over. Marrying Rose was okay. Initially, his family opposed the marriage, but now, even his dessert-loving father has become a fan of our family's pastries. I haven't met Luke's father yet, but I've heard he's a strict businessman. Sorry for the detour, but I had been discussing Kyle's recent behavior with Rose. That said, I wasn't staying with my family. My traditional-minded father wasn't thrilled about my whirlwind romance that started at a mixer, so I kept my distance from my family home. For that reason, most of our talks were either when Rose visited me or via video chat. That day, as the baby was due soon, I received some traditional pastries and had Rose come over. Kyle had always enjoyed the pastries from my family's shop, so Rose was like, why not use these to get on his good side, and gave some to me. I received a cheer from Rose, saying like good luck with making up. As I was feeling well that day, I made some of Kyle's favorite dishes and planned to enjoy the pastries after dinner, setting them on a small plate and waiting for him to come home. Around 9 o'clock, I heard the sound of the front door unlocking, and for the first time in a while, I went to greet him to the entrance. Welcome home, Kyle. Tonight, you know. As I approached the entrance, I was taken aback. Kyle, completely drunk, was brought home by a group of men and women. Moreover, Kyle was clinging on to one of the women's shoulders. "Kyle, we're here. Come on, let me go." The woman seemed a bit tipsy and didn't seem to notice me. "What a lovely house. It's so nice." She looked around curiously after laying Kyle down on the floor. "Who are you?" "Whoa! You scared me!" "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "Why are you in Kyle's house?" "Oh, are you the housekeeper?" "Hey. Isn't that his wife we've heard about?" "Housekeeper? His wife they've heard about? Who are these people?" With my mind filled with questions, I tried to raise my voice just a bit. "I'm Kyle's wife. It seems like you've brought my husband home. I appreciate it." "I'm sorry, are you his colleagues?" The woman, either misunderstanding or just not caring, glanced at me and started saying something. "Oh, so you're the wife. Kyle has been complaining, you know? Said you're quite the nag." "Hey, stop that. Sorry about her. We're Kyle's team members. We went out for drinks and he got a bit too much. We'll be going now. Goodbye." The man, perhaps sobering up, quickly grabbed the woman's arm and hurried out. Even though I didn't think they're much younger than us, I was taken aback by how lacking in common sense these young people seemed to be. Though, when it comes down to it, Kyle, passed out drunk on the floor, was probably to blame. I prepared a glass of water and tried to wake Kyle up. "Kyle! Wake up! You'll catch a cold sleeping here." But all I got in response was some mumbling, and he showed no signs of waking up. With my baby bump, there was no way I could carry Kyle to the bedroom. So, I fetched a blanket, covered him with it, left a note on the dining table saying heat it up if you're gonna eat, and decided to rest in our bedroom for the baby's sake. I must have fallen asleep soon after I hit the sack, because I was jolted awake by a loud noise. The sound came from the dining area, so I got up, holding my belly protectively, to see what was going on. To my horror, the dinner I'd prepared for Kyle, as well as the pastries Rose had brought, were scattered messily across the floor. And there, slumped over the table and muttering complaints, was Kyle. "What time do you think it is? Making all that racket is gonna bother the neighbors." "Huh? Look here, I've been working hard for you, all right? How can you talk to your husband like that?" Kyle, still sounding drunk and slurring his words, raised his voice. "I'm not saying you shouldn't drink, but our baby's coming soon, remember? Weren't you over the moon about it? What's gotten into you tonight? I made all your favorites and waited for you, and you go and make this mess. Come on, Kyle. You're gonna be a dad." I couldn't help but let my emotions spill over, and before I knew it, I was sobbing as I pleaded with him. But my feelings didn't seem to get through to Kyle. He just shouted like enough, and stormed out. We remained distant and misunderstood each other, and eventually, I gave birth to our daughter, Rosetta. I wished he would remember the times when we first met. I named her Rosetta, partly in hopes of that, but Kyle never held her. Rose was the one who was there for me during the delivery. Rose loves kids but couldn't have any of her own. That's why, taking a cue from Rose's name, I named our daughter Rosetta, hoping she would be loved by Rose as well. Rosetta has a heartwarming smile, and her laughter and smiles became my anchor. However, her crying at night was intense, and I often found myself protecting Rosetta from an enraged Kyle, not getting a wink of sleep. "If she cries and fusses in the middle of the night again, I'll kick both of you out." I'd gotten used to hearing such threats. But this can't go on. It's not fair to Rosetta. I had also prepared for the worst-case scenario in the back of my mind. Then, 3 months passed since Rosetta was born. Today was her checkup, so I spent my morning in the waiting room of the clinic. Even though I had an appointment, I had to wait for about 40 minutes. After the checkup, I was completely drained from the lack of sleep, and I felt totally beat. "Rosetta, we're finally done. Let's head home and rest." I hurried home, talking to Rosetta all the way. "We did great, didn't we? We're home now. All right, let's just, huh?" I reached the front door and tried to unlock it. "Won't it fit?" I tried to insert the key into the lock, but it wouldn't go in no matter how many times I tried. It just wouldn't open. It worked just fine when I left earlier. I reluctantly knocked on the door. I knew Kyle was home since it was his day off. "Yes?" "Oh, Kyle? Sorry, for some reason the key won't go in and I can't open the door. Can you help me out?" "What? You're back already?" Just in time. What are you talking about? I changed the lock because the kids' noise is annoying. You can sleep in the garden with the baby. You changed the lock? What are you talking about? Just open up. I want to get Rosetta some rest. No way. Didn't I tell ya? If she cried one more time, I'd kick you out. Come on. Rosetta is just a 3-month-old baby. How could I possibly let her sleep outside? Enough. Like I care. I'm not gonna let that baby waste any more of my time. You and your inability to take care of her can just get lost. Hey, Kyle. Ignoring my pleas, Kyle stopped talking to me. No matter how many times I knocked, he ignored it. It seemed he even powered off his phone. I couldn't even hear the ringtone anymore. This can't be happening. I was at a loss, taken aback by what just happened. Regardless, I needed to find a place for Rosetta to rest, so I started to walk away from the house. I couldn't go back to my parents. My father hasn't even seen Rosetta's face yet. If he found out I was locked out, who knows what he'd say. My trustworthy sister, Rose, had mentioned she'd be out at a meeting today, so I couldn't contact her. For now, I thought of taking refuge at a diner. However, exhausted from the lack of sleep, I stumbled. Then, "Hey lady, are you all right?" When I turned around, an elderly man stood there with a concerned look on his face. A bit further, there was a black car parked. "I promise I'm not a threat. I was driving by and saw you stumbling. I got concerned and thought I'd check if you're all right." The man had apparently gotten out of his car to make sure I didn't find him threatening. "Thank you." As I began to speak, tears started to stream down my face. "It seems like you're having some troubles, especially with a baby in your arms. Come on, get in the car. I have my female secretary with me." As the man raised his hand signaling, a poised woman stepped out of the car, took my bags, and gently guided me to get inside. He was like, "I can't believe this is happening." Once in the car, my embarrassment gave way to concern for Rosetta, and I recounted the whole incident to the man. The woman, whom he referred to as his secretary, handed me a handkerchief. At the same time, the man presented his business card. "I'm George O'Connor, the CEO here." "Mr. O'Connor, wait, what?" Seeing his business card, my eyes widened in surprise. After listening to my story, George spoke up. "Take care of this, okay?" When George said that to his secretary, she picked up something and nodded, saying like certainly. I decided to call Kyle again to negotiate. And after what felt like dozens of rings, he finally answered. "Geez, stop calling. I've told you, you're not coming back in. Just find someplace to sleep with that kid." As expected, he wasn't going to let us in. So I replied like this. "All right, got it. Just remember, wherever we sleep, no complaints from you." "Wait, what?" With that, I hung up. We then began to drive away in George's car. If this is how you're gonna be, I won't hesitate for Rosetta's sake. In my heart, I murmured, preparing for the worst-case scenario I had in mind. "Hannah, are you okay? I'm so sorry. I should have come with you to the doctor's appointment." Looking frantic, Rose burst into the room. "You should have called the shop." "Rose, I'm so sorry for worrying you. And for dragging Luke into this too." "Don't say that. Rose's precious sister is also important to me." Having said that, the person who came with Rose was Luke. I was so surprised when I got the call from Dad. "Thank you so much, George, for helping my sister and Rosetta." Oh, I never imagined that the person I'd called out to was Rose's sister, Hannah. Something turned out. The world is a small place. The man who approached me was none other than the father of Luke, the husband of my sister Rose. I was thinking of visiting with Rosetta once things settled down, but I never thought our first meeting would be like this. And where Rosetta and I were, believe it or not, at George's place, for Rose, it's her father-in-law's house. I was brought to George's place by car, and they let Rosetta rest in a bed. While I was talking about my family, it turns out that Luke, who married Rose, is George's son. George was passing by in a car to pick up some traditional sweets for his valued customers and noticed me. So, George contacted Luke, who then rushed over with Rose. "So, is it true? Kyle locked you out of the house?" "Yeah. I can't believe he told me to sleep outside when Rosetta was there." "Babies cry all the time. It's unacceptable. I nod slowly. I told everything to Rose and Luke. Why would he go to the extent of changing the lock just to kick out Hannah and Rosetta? What do you mean? If he just wanted to get rid of you because of Rosetta's crying at night, he could have just put on a door chain, right? He's at work during the day, so you wouldn't run into him. Means he has a reason for not wanting Hannah and Rosetta in the room. If only we could see inside the room, we might get some clues. Oh. We can see the living room. There's a baby monitor camera I installed for Rosetta. Recalling, we all peered into the camera connected to my smartphone. What's this? So, that's what's going on. How inappropriate. George, who had been silent, frowned in confusion. On the screen, Kyle was seen playing with a woman in a compromising position on the couch. I recognized that woman. She was the young lady who once introduced herself as Kyle's team member and brought a drunk Kyle home. I can't believe it. Blaming Rosetta's crying at night and kicking us out for this. I was seething with anger, and my body started to shake. I'll never forgive him. I've decided to take action against Kyle. It had been a week since Kyle kicked me out and I hadn't returned home when my cell phone rang. It was Kyle. I didn't want to hear that guy's voice, but I thought I might get an entertaining reaction, so I answered. Hello? Long time no talk. Hey. What the hell do you think you're doing? You call out of the blue and don't even greet me? That doesn't matter. Why the hell are you sending an attorney after me? Talking about divorce and paying compensation, have you lost your mind? Oh? You've heard from the attorney, right? Child support for Rosetta. You'll be paying it until she turns 18. But of course, the divorce comes first. Hold on. Why the sudden talk about divorce? Huh? You're the one who kicked us out. Yeah, I told you to get out, but I never said anything about getting a divorce. It's obvious that I would divorce you even without you saying it. I won't stay with a man who'd kick out his lovely daughter using the excuse of her crying at night just because he cheated. What? I never cheated. What evidence do you have? Are you stupid? The attorney is taking action because there's evidence. Don't think you can talk your way out of this. I'm not the same person who'd just listen and say nothing anymore. I firmly voiced my thoughts, asked the attorney to proceed with the divorce. At first, Kyle resisted, but with the evidence from the living room security camera and the confession from the other woman, he eventually accepted the divorce. We agreed to go through division of property. He also promised to pay the child support every month. If he fell behind, he agreed to pay the remaining amount in one lump sum as stipulated in our agreement. A while later, I got another call from Kyle. I've done my part for the divorce, all right? I'll pay the child support in no time. That's good to hear. Seems like you're quite confident about your finances, huh? Yeah. The CEO personally approached me the other day. He was like, I have something important to discuss with you soon. Man, my talent finally caught the attention of a major company's CEO. I'm definitely getting a promotion. Okay. So, I'm saying goodbye to a shady woman like you with a child for good. I'll find a better woman and live the high life. And with that, Kyle continued to get carried away with his delusions that hadn't even come true. How could someone who's done wrong expect such good fortune? Well, as long as I could get what's owed to me, that's fine. I certainly didn't want to be with a loser like him. All I need is my lovely daughter Rosetta. Several months had passed since I divorced Kyle, when I found myself in a certain place. Thanks for coming. What happened this time is unforgivable, both personally and for our company. I've looked into it thoroughly. Yes, I'm truly sorry for the inconvenience. Hannah, there's no need for you to apologize. If anything, you're the victim here. Make sure to witness everything. As George finished speaking, there was a knock at the door. Come in. At George's deep voice, a man entered, grinning and rubbing his hands together. Mr. O'Connor, I've been eagerly waiting for your call. Oh, you have a guest. It was my ex-husband, Kyle. Standing by the entrance, Kyle gaped as he glanced further into the room. Why are you here? He was flustered, but I simply stood up in his direction. It was a cold, detached gesture. Long time no see, Mr. Kyle O'Donnell. Remember, you're in front of the CEO. Why? His face turned pale, and he looked comically flustered, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Let me explain. This is Ms. Hannah Johnson. She's the younger sister of my son's wife, Rose. Small world, huh? Indeed. When I met George and saw his business card, I was shocked to see the name of Kyle's workplace on it. I was also surprised to learn that he was Rose's father-in-law. In short, I was in Kyle's boss's office. George had called me in, planning to exact retribution on Kyle for what he did to me and Rosetta. Moreover, you had an affair with your team member and, for such a disgraceful reason, kicked out Hannah and your daughter, Rosetta. How despicable. No, Mr. O'Connor. I swear, I've never done such a thing. I don't know what she told you, but I would never. Oh? So you're saying Hannah made up the affair? Yes. I would never do something so cruel. So you admit it's cruel? Of course. Then why did you tell me and Rosetta to sleep outside and change the lock? That was just a joke. But you took it seriously. You didn't even come back. Maybe you found another man. Enough. It's pathetic. Yep. George became furious and pulled out a voice recorder from his pocket, playing back a recording of Kyle berating me. You've been recording me? Isn't this eavesdropping? I'm gonna sue you. My secretary recorded it. Plus, it's not eavesdropping. And after you kicked them out, they stayed at my place. In my wife's room. I told you, right? Don't complain wherever we sleep. Come on. Seriously? What about my promotion? My raise? No way that's happening. After you betrayed us by having an affair with a team member. That's not cheating because... Why don't you just accept it? George. Mr. O'Connor saw the footage from the living room security camera. It was truly disturbing. And the woman you were with, Carol, admitted the affair and resigned. You pressured her into a relationship, didn't you? You said you felt lonely because your wife was cold to you, right? No way. My life's over. Kyle's dumbfounded scream echoed throughout the CEO's office. Thus, Kyle was personally reprimanded by the CEO, George, who is also my sister's-in-law. Anticipating a raise in promotion, Kyle walked into the CEO's office on cloud 9, only to find himself plummeting down to rock bottom. He had splurged his money on his affair partner, postponing the child support. According to the contract, he needed to pay the child support properly. Come on, Hannah. We had something special. Let's give it another go, huh? I promise I'll take care of the kid this time. Thinking we might reconcile and he could avoid the payments, Kyle tried to turn the tables. How dare you? What do you mean by kid? My daughter's name is Rosetta. Don't ever contact me again. It was outrageous. Regretting that I married such a person, I felt frustrated, ashamed, and profoundly sad. Ignoring Kyle's desperate pleas on the other end of the phone, I pressed the end call button, blocking him. Later, my attorney informed me that Kyle's dismissal haunted him, preventing him from finding a new job. Trying to borrow money to pay me, he couldn't get a loan from reputable sources. Instead, he borrowed from shady individuals. To repay his debt, he's working hard every day under their watchful eyes. I genuinely felt sorry for him. As for me, with the help of Rose and Luke, I managed to reconcile with my father and return to my family home. According to Luke, my father seemed to have been concerned about Rosetta and me, and he would quietly ask Luke like, how are they doing? When Rose informed our father of the recent events, he was ready to confront Kyle in anger. When I returned with Rosetta after a long time, my father had a stern look on his face, standing imposingly. But when Rosetta gave him a bright smile, he said in a soft voice like, nice to meet you. I'm your grandpa. He took her hand and, looking a bit shy, reached out for her, suggesting that I should let him hold her. We finally put our differences aside after years of not speaking. Now, my father is completely smitten with Rosetta, leaving his store in Luke's hands, buying toys, and spending time playing with her. Thanks to this, I can now help Rose and Luke at the store. George and his wife started visiting us more frequently, helping to take care of Rosetta. It turns out they share some hobbies with my father, and they often hang out. Rose dotes on Rosetta, acting as a second mom to her. Even Luke claims like I'm your dad, to Rosetta and showers her with affection. On days off, the four of us often go to parks. Brimming with love and care, Rosetta is growing up with a constant smile. I am looking forward to watching Rosetta's grow surrounded by my warm family. I live a contented life.